Hey everybody, welcome to Board Game Heaven. My name is Raymond, and in this video I'll be talking about Stroganov by Andreas Stedding, published by Game Brewer, and this is currently on Kickstarter, and you can find it by clicking the link in the description below or the I in the corner of this video. And this is a medium to heavyweight Euro-style game for 1 to 4 players, which plays in about 1 to 2 hours for ages 12 and up. It has some worker placement, some set collection, some resource management, and a little bit of engine building. So I'll explain how to set up the game, I'll teach you the rules, and I'll give you my final thoughts. To set up a game of Stroganov, put the game board in the middle of the table and place the starting tile in its indicated spot. Take the 5 starting landscape tiles marked with an S, give them a shuffle and place them face up on the first 5 spaces to the right of the starting tile. Shuffle the remaining landscape tiles and place 7 more face up in the spaces to the right of the starting landscape tiles. Now you'll have a row of 12 landscape tiles and the remaining tiles are placed to the side of the board face down. Take the 6 setup furs and randomly draw one to place face up on the trade action space. The remaining 5 setup furs are laid face up, one in each of the regions on the board on the indicated spaces. They are placed from lowest to highest value, going from left to right. These 5 furs denote the advanced action cost of that region. Put the 76 fur tokens into the bag and mix them thoroughly. Check the first landscape tile to determine the required number of fur tokens based on the landscape type and the number of players. In a 4-player game you fill all of the spots, and with less than 4 players you ignore the spots with a 4 in it. Keep doing this for all the landscape tiles by drawing tokens randomly from the bag, placing them from top to bottom in ascending order until all the landscape tiles have fur tokens. The rightmost landscape tile also gets a tiger token. Draw 6 more random tiles from the bag and place them face up in the market. Take the 5 village tiles and randomly place them on the indicated spaces on the 5 areas on the board. Take the yurt tiles indicated with the letter A and randomly place 5 of them on the indicated spots on the 5 regions of the board. Put the B yurt tiles and the remaining A yurt tiles on the appropriate storage space on the game board. Every player selects one of the 4 colors and their corresponding player board and exploration token. And this is a prototype, but the final version will have an exploration token matching the spots on the player board. Then randomly determine who gets to go first and place that player's corresponding Cossack token on the rightmost side of the starting tile. Place the second player behind that pawn, and then the third and the 4th player. Turns are always played in the order in which the Cossack tokens are on the board, so not in clockwise order. Place each player's victory point token at the start of the victory point track, and put the season marker on the first space of the year track. Place each player's story token at the start of the story track. Separate and shuffle the A and B song tile stacks respectively and place a number of A song tiles equal to the number of players face up on the indicated spaces. Place the remaining A and B song tiles on the appropriate storage space on the game board. Separate the Tsar's Wish cards with the letters A, B and S. Shuffle each deck separately and take off the top 5 cards of the A deck. Put the B and remaining A cards on the indicated spot on the board and set the S cards aside for the moment. Place the 5 A cards we just drew on the 5 indicated spots on the different regions on the board. Depending on the number of players, you reveal a number of S cards to be chosen by the players. In a 2-player game you reveal 3 cards, in a 3-player game you reveal 4 cards, and in a 4-player game you reveal 5 cards. Then randomly draw a fur token from the bag and place one on each of the cards. Then in reverse player order, starting with the player whose Cossack meeple is furthest on the left of the starting tile, each player chooses one of the 5 Tsar's Wish cards. They take the card into their hand and the third tile into their personal supply next to their player board. The remaining Tsar's Wish card is discarded and the fur is put back into the bag. Each player takes 1 coin and 1 outpost in their color. Players also receive horses based on the player order. The first player receives 3 horses, the second player 4 horses, the third player 5, and the fourth player gets 6 horses. And again, these are horse tokens. The final version will have wooden horse meeples in 2 colors. The white horses have a value of 1 and the burgundy red horses have a value of 3. In a 2-player game, place 12 banner tiles, in a 3-player game 17, and in a 4-player game all 20 banner tiles next to the board, as well as all of the remaining coins and horses. The remaining outposts are also placed next to the board, and the tiger tiles are placed on their spot on the board. Horses and coins are not considered limited. In the unlikely event that they run out, use any suitable replacement. Finally, in a 3-player setup, you place 1 outpost of the unused player color in each region of the game board on the indicated spaces. And in a 2-player setup, you do the same and then place 1 outpost of the remaining unused player color on the 2 leftmost regions on the indicated spaces. That was the entire setup of the game. Let's explain the rules. Each of the 4 rounds of the game represents a year, and each year has 4 phases. You've got spring, summer, autumn, and winter. And during the first 3 seasons, 3 turns you can take, you will advance your Cossacks further into Siberia, you will explore, you will hunt for pelts, you will trade in villages, and with the yurt outpost you will build your own outposts. You'll try to fulfill the wishes of the Tsar by getting these letters and fulfilling them. You will acquire story points on the story track, which then later in winter, when you gather all your resources, you can weave into song that will also get you extra resources. And it is during the winter that all your Cossacks will return to their camps at the starting tile, and the player who got furthest will be the starting player on the next year. And then the game is reset and you determine your income. And you'll be scoring victory points during all the seasons, and at the end of the game, after the last income phase in winter is finished, the player with the most victory points wins the game. During the spring, summer, and autumn seasons, you will be performing 3 steps in order when you are the active player. And these are also explained with icons on the board. So the first step during these 3 seasons is to move your Cossacks. The second action is performing a basic action indicated with this silver circle, and those actions are indicated over here on the board. And the third action you will take is either another basic action or an advanced action, which is indicated with a golden circle on all of these tiles on the board. And then additionally, after that third action, there are certain Tsar cards that can give you an additional action. And then you can also pay for either an additional advanced action or an additional basic action. And after everyone has been the active player 1 time in a season, the season marker advances 1 step to the next season, and you take turns again being the active player depending on where your Cossack is on the board. And then after 3 seasons, the winter season begins, and I'll explain that in detail later, but let's first go over those 3 action steps in detail. So the first action you always have to take is to move your Cossacks, and you can move your Cossack for free up to 2 spaces. So I can move either 1 or 2 regions deeper into Siberia. I can, however, also pay in horses to move further. So if I want to move 1 step further, that means I have to pay 1 horse, which is a white horse meeple. I can also pay 3 horses, which is the red horse meeple, or 3 white ones, to move an additional, so 4 spaces ahead. And if I should want to move 5 spaces ahead, I have to pay 2 red horses, so that's 6 horses in total. A player must always perform the move action unless you are already at the very last tile of the board. It can happen that regions have been bought from the board and are gone, leaving a gap, and then you simply skip that gap. So those don't count as a movement spot. The second action you take is a basic action indicated by these silver rings, and they are listed here. So your basic actions is either taking 1 coin from the reserve, or moving your Cossack up to 2 spaces forward or backwards. You can take 4 horse points from the supply, or you can go hunting. Now, if you go hunting, you basically take the first tile, the fur tile, from the region you're in, and the first tile is always free. If you, however, want a tile that's further along the track, you will have to pay 1 horse per fur that you skip. So if I wanted the third one here, I'd skip 2 of these tiles, so I'd have to pay 2 horses in order to hunt this animal. And you can optionally pay a coin to hunt twice. And this means if I'm hunting twice and I, for example, take this first bunny here, then this one is gone. It's been hunted for free. And then I can hunt again at the cost of 1 coin. And then I can take this one, this fox, without paying horses because the bunny is already gone. So, and again, if I wanted to have another fur, then I just pay 1 horse if I want the second one, and another horse if I wanted the third at that point. And the 5th basic action I can take is to trade, and that means I have to pay a fur indicated by this tile here, which is set up at the start of the game. So I need a deer in this case with a value of 6, but then I can take 2 of these rewards, which are listed here. So instead of taking a basic action to take 1 reward, I can take 2. So either a coin or 2 story points on the story track, moving my Cossack 1 or 2 spots forward or back, or 3 horses. And you can also choose to pick 2 of the same rewards. Now, any furs and coins that you take are always kept in your personal supply as open information. Every time you take a bear pelt into your personal supply, you also gain 2 extra story points that you can advance immediately. Furs also have exact values. So for example, 2 value 3 furs cannot be used to pay for a value 6 cost. And you can also not use a higher value fur to pay for a lower value cost. They always have to be the exact same fur. You can, however, pay for any fur with a different fur if you pay an additional 1 coin. A tiger tile is considered to be the highest value of fur and can be taken following the normal fur hunting rules. And tiger tiles are worth 2 victory points at the end of the game and can also be used as a substitute for any type of fur when trading. The third action a player can take is either another basic action, which we just covered, or an advanced action. And you can also take a second basic or advanced action by paying a cost, which is indicated here. Advanced actions are indicated with the golden circles on the board, and you can activate those actions in the region where your meeple is currently located. So the first advanced action you can take is to visit a town and activate that reward. That simply means you get the rewards that are printed on the tiles, and I'll explain all the icons in a bit. A second action is that you go to the yurt camp and get that reward. When you activate a yurt, it is taken from the board. And yurt tiles are refreshed during every winter phase, but villages stay on the board for the entire game. A third advanced action is to take the Tsar card, which is also an advanced action indicated here, which goes for this entire line, all these cards. And you simply take them into your hand until you can fulfill the cost being the Tsar's wish. And that simply means you just need to own the amount of furs indicated here. So in this case, I'd need 4 furs of value 4, so 4 fox skins, and if I have those, I can take that card and place it onto my board here and score 2 victory points immediately, and I'll have this additional ability. If, however, a fur has a red border, such as this one at the bottom, then that means that I have to pay that fur back into the bag. So in this case, I'd have to have 4 furs, pay one of those 4, put it back in the bag, and then I will have fulfilled this card. I get 2 victory points, place this underneath my board like so, and I can stack multiple cards next to each other. And this card specifically means that during the winter phase, I gain 2 story points. And I can keep as many of these Tsar's Wishes card on my hand as I like, until I fulfill one or more of them and I can place them on my player board. Then another action I can take is to build an outpost. So if I own an outpost token here, then I can also use one of the advanced actions on this track to build an outpost at the area that I am in. Now, building an outpost on the first spot is always free, but the second spot, if this one is already taken, costs 1 horse, and the third spot costs 2 horses. You can only build 1 outpost of your color in each area, and there is only room for 3 outposts, so not every player may be able to build an outpost in each area. So for example, if later on in the game the green player moves over here in this area, or maybe even in the area where I am, and if another player moves onto an occupied tile, you always place them to the left of the other meeple. Then that player can also now build an outpost if they have any of these outpost tokens by using a advanced action, and then they can build it in the second available spot, but they have to pay an additional horse to build it. And an outpost gives you the advantage that even when your meeple moves away from this area, so you can move to the left or right with a basic action, so perhaps you want to go back and hunt some furs there, then you can still activate any advanced actions in that area where you have an outpost. And these outposts stay on the board for the remainder of the game. And a final advanced action you can take is to buy land. So you can buy the tile that your Cossack is on by paying a cost. Now the cost is explained here at the very first starting tile. So to buy an area, you pay twice the value of the fur of that area, which is indicated here. So this is the cost of land in this area. So I'd have to pay 2 fox skins with a value of 4 here to buy this land, plus any number of animals that are still on it. So in this case, if there were still 4 animals to be hunted there, I'd have to pay 4 additional fox skins, not these, but fox skins as indicated here, to buy this land. So that would cost me a total of 6 fox skins. Now you can always use any other skin to pay for a specific skin by paying 1 additional coin. So if I had like 5 fox skins and a different one, I'd have to pay an additional coin for that 6th one. But then as you take that tile, you place it to the right of your character board and you get all the rewards on it, including the furs that were still there. So you basically own that land. You can hunt all the animals in there. You get all those furs in your personal stash. Plus, in this case, 2 victory points, which you score immediately, a coin, and a red horse meeple. So that's 3 horses. So if later in the game some of the animals have been hunted, so for example these 2 have been already hunted and there's only 2 left, then buying this land would cost me 2 value 4 furs plus 2 more, making 4 fox furs. And so after choosing one of these advanced actions, I can take an additional advanced or basic action by paying a cost. For a basic action, I just pay any 1 fur back into the bag and I can take any one of these basic actions. Or I pay the cost of the fur of the region that I am in, which is this square icon here. And that means, again, a number 4 fur, and then I can take an extra advanced action of the area that I am in. And of course, if I am somewhere else, I could also take an advanced action where I have an outpost by paying the cost of the fur of the area that the outpost is in. Now, as you have noticed, this game uses icons on everything, so it is completely language independent, which is good, but there's a lot of icons, and these are all explained in the rules. So in these cities, you will notice that there are several symbols here. So this simply means you take one banner token into your personal stash. This means you take an outpost in your personal stash, which you can then build later. This icon means any fur, and the market icon here refers to the market. So if I activate this town, I can take any one tile from the market and then replace it with a new one from the bag. The loot icon means that I advance my story track by 1 point, and sometimes you get multiple loot, so you can move your marker that many spots. Gaining a coin is simply indicated with a coin. Victory points are these shield, and the number of points you get are simply indicated on it. Horses are also pretty straightforward and indicated by color. Your Cossack meeples are indicated by these Cossacks here, and hunting is of course the rifles. Every region also has a special icon to indicate the type of region, and you have the plains, forest, rivers and mountains. The seasons all also have their own icon. And finally, there's the exploration icon, which I will explain separately in a bit. So let's talk about the exploration track on your character board. So anytime you choose an action that will activate the exploration icon, such as the town with the exploration icon, the yurt, or receiving this song bonus during the winter phase, or completing a Tsar's Requests card, which also has this logo on some of them, then at that point you may choose to move your exploration token, which has the shape of one of these arrows or books. You may choose to move it down 1 spot, like so. And then you have to pay the cost of that tile that you're on, this fur. So if I have that, I can put this back into the bag and advance my token 1 step. And after I've done that, which is optional, so if I cannot pay for the cost or I don't want to, I'll simply leave my token at the position that it was at. And then after I've done that, I can choose any reward at my current level or higher up the track. So if I was still here, I can only choose the reward of an extra horse token and add that to my pool. Or if I were here and I wanted to do song points, I'd simply add 2 points to the song track. So in a later turn, if I advance my exploration track again and I pay the cost, put that back into the bag, at this point I could do an extra town activation anywhere on the board as long as it's not the town with the exploration symbol. At the 4 level, I simply gain a victory point, and again I can choose any of the higher ones instead. At the 5 level, I get 1 fur from the bag, and so I draw 2, keep 1 and put the other one back, plus I gain 2 horses. At the 6th level, I can take 1 fur from the market and then replace it with a new token from the bag and advance my song track by 2. At the 7th level, I can activate any yurt token on the board except the one with the exploration symbol. And at the 8th level, which is the highest level, I can choose from 2 of these rewards as long as they are not the same. So I can pick any 2 different rewards. And as you can see, the higher up the track I am, the more victory points I will gain at the end of the game. Finally, there are 3 auxiliary actions that any player may take at any time during their turn as many times as they want to. The first one is to pay 5 horses to either take 1 fur from the market, replacing it with 1 from the bag immediately, or to draw 2 furs from the bag, pick 1 and put the other one back into the bag. You can also pay 1 horse and 1 fur of a greater value than 1 from the market to take that fur from the market, or you can pay any 2 furs and put them back into the bag and take 1 fur from the market. And as I explained before, you can also fulfill a Tsar's wish by simply fulfilling the request on that card and playing it from your hand onto the table, getting the rewards that are printed on it immediately. Then after the 3 seasons, it's time for the winter phase. And during that phase, you will always receive 2 horses plus an additional horse for each banner token you possess. Any fulfilled Tsar cards that you have in front of you that have the winter symbol may grant you extra bonuses, such as this one that gives you an extra coin during the winter phase. And some Tsar cards will give you an extra action to take anywhere on the board. And the next step is to check how many story points each player has earned in the order they are on the board and convert those into songs. So for example, if the red player was all the way over here, then that would be the first player to take an action, and say if they had 3 song points, for example, and the blue player had 2, then the red player would go first, and they could say, well, we've got some tiles here that only cost 2, so I'm going to convert 2 story points into, let's say, this song, and that will grant them 1 victory point in this case, and then this tile is simply discarded. Then the next player gets to go, and they will also convert 2 story points into a song, and that one will get them an extra 3 horses. Next, any gaps that there are in the land will be filled again. So for example, if this tile had been bought in an earlier phase, then all the previous tiles will simply slide to the left, and the final spot on the board, or spots if there were multiple, will be filled from the stack. New tiles will again be filled with furs from the bag, but any furs that were hunted in the existing tiles do not get refilled. If the rightmost landscape tile is new, you also place a tiger token on it. Next, you place all the Cossacks back onto the starting tile in the order that they are in Siberia, meaning that if the red player was the furthest ahead, then they would play first during the next round, followed in this case by blue, etc. The next step is to refresh the market, which means that all furs in the market are discarded back into the bag and refilled with 6 new ones. Next, any unused song tiles are also discarded, and the entire track here is filled with 4 new songs from the stack. Then any remaining yurt tiles are also moved to the left to fill any gaps, and new yurt tiles are drawn from the stack to fill in the spaces starting from left to right. And finally, you move any Tsar cards to the left to fill in any gaps and add new Tsar's Wish cards to any vacant spaces. When refilling the tokens for year 2, you use the song, yurt, and Tsar's Wish tokens with the A, and for the years 3 and 4, you use the tokens with the B on them. And just like after every round, you advance the season marker to the next season, and in this case to spring, to begin a new year. Now at the end of the 4th year after the winter phase, it's time to tally up your victory points. And this is done in the order depicted here on the board. So first of all, you check whether you have any Tsar's Wish cards that grant you extra victory points. So for example, there is a card that gives you 1 extra victory point for every 4 victory points that you have already scored on the track. And that's a card you always do first, but there are also cards that will simply give you victory points for a type of land that you have bought, or victory points for any land that you have bought, victory points for your banner tokens, or just simply add victory points to your total. Then you check to see if you have sets of land. So if you own 3 different types of land, then you get 3 additional victory points. But if you have all 4 in your possession, then you score 6. Each tiger tile you possess is worth 2 victory points. Your advancement on the exploration track is also worth extra victory points. You also get victory points for having built 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 outposts, and you get 1, 3, 6, 10, or 15 victory points respectively. Next, you get points for any leftover horses and furs. First, you convert any 5 horses you have into any type of fur, doesn't matter which one, and then for every 2 furs that you still have, you get an extra victory point. And finally, any 4 points on the story track will also get you an extra victory point. The player with the most victory points wins the game, and in the case of a tie, the player with the Cossack who is furthest into Siberia wins the game. And those were all the rules. Let's go to my final thoughts. So my final thoughts on Stroganov by Game Brewer. Let me start by saying that I am usually not a player of heavy Euro games. People who watch my channel or who know me personally know that I'm usually a thematic game player. I like cooperative games, I like party games, lighter games, and I do play some Euro games as long as they are not too big and too complex. Now this is definitely one of the heavier Euro games I've ever played. So keep that in mind. I'll start with talking about the components. Now obviously this is still a prototype and it is not representative of the final copy of the game. It will of course be a lot nicer and a lot better, and knowing Game Brewer, I have no doubt in my mind that this will be a top-notch production with really nice components, really nice tokens. You'll get your horse meeples instead of the tokens that I have here, and all the tokens will match their shapes of the icons on the board as well, and that will look absolutely fantastic. So I'm pretty sure, I'm very sure actually, that the component quality will be top-notch. The artwork is phenomenal. I really love the way this whole game looks. I love all the different landscapes and the landscape tiles as well, with the beautiful illustrations. I also like the fact that the illustrator chose to draw the animals instead of their furs. You actually get pictures of live animals that these Cossacks are going to hunt. The board itself is also very beautiful. I like the little patterns that are in the background everywhere, and I like that everything has its own space as well. You have spaces for all the tiles and all the tokens, and everything fits on the board. So the artwork is absolutely stunning. Huge 2 thumbs up. Really love it. So let's talk about the theme for a second, because it is of course about a family of people in Russia going out into Siberia to hunt for furs. And they're going in there and they're taking land. It's a historical setting, and you might not really like the idea of going out to hunt for furs, or to play this rich family that's just going into Siberia, taking the land that they find there. But this is a game that is set in the 17th century, so it has some historical truths here, and yeah, you might not enjoy playing that, but to me personally, it's just a setting, it's just what it is, and it gives you some incredible artwork to boot. So when I'm playing this game, I don't see myself as a character actually going hunting and shooting animals. It's what these Cossacks do, of course, it's what your workers do, but it's in the end just a game with a historical setting. But if you really truly don't like the idea of going out and hunting for furs, then this might not be the game for you. Personally, I don't really mind, because this game is, after all, a historical game, and it's about the gameplay. So let's talk about the gameplay then. This is, of course, a quite heavy Euro game. It's in the medium to heavy range, so there's a lot to take in. I found this game to be pretty intimidating the first time I unpacked this, and everything was in Ziploc bags. There were a lot of components, a lot of tokens, a lot of stuff just going on, and I was quite intimidated. And I read the setup of the game, and it is quite the setup. It has 19 steps to do, and you have to place your tiles on the board. Then you have to place the fur tokens, which you draw from the bag, and you place them on the board, and then you have to sort them in numerical order as well, so that takes a little time. And then you have to put some other tokens down with the cost of the furs that you need to pay when buying that land or performing certain actions. You have to put down the village tiles, you have to put down the yurt tiles, then you have to sort and shuffle the Tsar's wishes cards as well. There's a lot to sort and a lot to set up, and there's the market and all these tokens on the board as well. Everything just sits on the board, and then people select their character board. They get some more tokens to start with. So the setup is pretty long and there's a lot of components here and you need to sort those as well. So I really hope that Game Brewer will create an insert for this game that already sorts those things for you. So you have separate slots for all the different tokens, even sorted between the A and the B letters on these song and these yurt tokens and on the Tsar's letters, because you really just want to grab those letter A tiles, give those a shuffle and just randomly place them on the board and put the B tiles underneath. You don't want to be sorting out all those different tiles every time you play. So in order to speed up setup, this game does need a good insert, and I'm hoping Game Brewer will do that. Now, during the game, you will have a lot of options. Fortunately, they are all printed on the board with their icons, which is great. I love that. I really think it helps you to get into the game and the options that you have more than having a cheat sheet per player with all the options on it. Somehow, for me at least, this really worked. You have your basic actions, you have your advanced actions that are basically all over the board, and they are indicated with these silver and gold circles. Of course, you have your move action at the start, which is explained here, which is pretty straightforward. You just move your Cossack 2 spaces forward or 1 space forward, and then you pay horses if you want to go further. And then you can use your basic actions to even move back or just to get some resources, and you can pay extra to get 2 kinds of resources. So that's all pretty standard and it's pretty basic. So after you move, you have your basic actions, which are pretty straightforward. And really, for me, that would have already been enough to enjoy the game. But then you have your advanced options, which is all over the board. You can buy land, you can go to the towns, you can go to the yurt camps, you can get these Tsar's wish letters, and there's just a whole lot extra stuff to do. So you have 5 basic options and 5 advanced options. Or you can use an advanced option to do another basic option, which is good. And then you can additionally pay to take one more, either basic or advanced action. So there's a whole lot of stuff to do, and you really need to take all of those into consideration, which may be pretty challenging the first time you play this. But again, like I said, everything is basically printed on the board. So as soon as you know what all those icons mean, it is pretty clear. So they're not complicated actions, there's just a lot to take in. But I feel that after having played a couple of years, so the first 2 times you finish a year, you will have played 6 seasons and 2 winter seasons where you gather, your points and extra stuff that you get during winter, basically the bookkeeping phase. And by then you'll have a pretty good idea of your options. And also when you're course playing with other players, you can watch what the others are doing and learn from that as well. And even in addition to those actions, you have the 3 auxiliary actions that you can take, which are free. And of course, some of the Tsar's cards will also grant you extra actions, sometimes during specific seasons. So you really have to keep those in mind. So this is a great game if you're into heavier Euro games where you have lots of options and you can take any strategy you want, because it will happen that someone will take that fur that you were after, or even the entire tile, or that yurt tile that you wanted to go to, and then you can go there anymore because they're gone. So that leaves you with plenty of different other options that you can still take, so you're never going to be stranded or out of options. It does mean, however, that all of these options may mean that if you are prone to analysis paralysis, this game might give you that, at least during the first couple of years that you're playing this game, the 2 years when you take your 6 turns. There's just a whole lot of stuff to do. And later on, once you get to know your actions and, actions become perhaps more limited or more expensive, you're kind of building your engine, you'll probably be focused on a certain strategy already by then. So your analysis paralysis might wear off. And I would suggest just going into this game not really using a strategy. Just do whatever you can. Just look at your options, pick one and do it, and don't worry about it too much, because by the time you're in the 3rd and 4th year, you'll know exactly what you want to do. This does mean, however, that the game can be pretty long. Game Brewer says it's about 90 minutes. I think you can easily play this for 2 hours, especially if you're playing with 4 players, because everybody needs to do all of those actions. You're moving your characters around, which is pretty quick. Then you're taking your basic action, then you're taking your advanced or another basic action, then you can pay for an additional action, then you have some free actions. There can be a lot of things that a player can do on their turn, and they may have to think about some things as well, you know, considering they're weighing their options and thinking, well, if I do this now, I can't do that later, so I need to get some furs. And, you know, if people are taking a long time to think about their turns, then 4 turns of waiting is a pretty long time. So the game might be very long and might overstay its welcome if, you know, players are new to the game. But again, after having played this at least once, I think the players will have a better idea and a better understanding of what to do. So it takes a bit of practice, but once you've gotten through that first threshold, I think the game will speed up a lot. Now, because of all of these tokens and all of these components, there's a lot of stuff on the board, a lot of little pieces, and you know, these furs that you have to stack on the tiles, and you have to stack them in the right order. So there's a lot of tiny things going on, a lot of these tokens and tracks to keep track of. And I fear that if you're play this on a sturdy table, because if you were to play this on a wobbly table and someone would bump it, all of these pieces flying around, that would give me anxiety. So I really recommend, you know, just having a sturdy big table where everything will fit. There's just a lot of stuff going on here. And again, you know, that makes the setup very long, and you want to somehow organize your game. So that is something I wasn't really a fan of, all the little tokens and the little pieces. But yeah, well, you need them in this game. There's a lot going on, lots of resource management. There's some tableau or engine building on your character board with the Tsar's cards and with the exploration track, which I love, by the way. So if you love all of that, if you like resource management, worker placement, some engine building, and perhaps some set collection, if you're going after the 3 or 4 different lands, then you'll love this game. This game is absolutely, that will give you all of that and more. But if you enjoy the lighter games and you want a game not to take too long, then this might not be for you. And then finally, Game Brewer has also announced that there will be a solo mode. So if you're into a big crunchy solo game, then you can also check out this game on Kickstarter. So let's talk about the replayability. This game is technically different every time you play it. It's the same game, but because of the different random setup, you will play the game differently. You will take different strategies every time you go after different resources, perhaps. It's going to be different every time you play it. But since it's such a big and long game, you're probably not going to play multiple sessions of this game in one night. This is a one-time game per game night, and then you put it back in your shelf and then play it again maybe in a week or so. But replayability is really just as long as you enjoy it. And the game will be different every time you play it. So that's good, I think. And finally, the game is 100% language independent, which I love. That's a huge 2 thumbs up, and that's pretty impressive for a game this big with so many options and so many components. But they managed to make all of that clear with these icons on the board. And they're really intuitive. Once you learn what everything means, you'll know exactly what to do. So that's pretty good. I love that. You'll only need the rules in your own language, and anyone can play this game. So that's absolutely also a 2 thumbs up. So in the end, even though I generally don't play heavier Euro games and longer games like this, I prefer thematic games and miniature games and whatnot. If I want to sit down for a game that's 2 hours long, I prefer a cooperative game or things like a dungeon crawler. But I'm glad I got the opportunity to review this because it has opened my eyes to other types of games that I would normally just avoid. It is a pretty impressive a heavier Euro-style game with beautiful components, beautiful artwork, and just a lot of options. You'll never run out of options, even when somebody else does something that you wanted to do. There's plenty of other stuff you can do, and you'll always get something good out of it. So if that appeals to you, go check out the Kickstarter by clicking the link in the description below or the I in the corner of this video, and that will take you to the Kickstarter, and then you can see more about this game, you can read about this game, you can watch some different reviews as well, and perhaps pledge for a copy of the game as well. And that was it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon if you'd like to be notified whenever I upload a new video. Please also consider becoming a Patreon saint to my channel by clicking the link to my Patreon page in the links below, or by clicking the icon at the end of this video, and that will take you to my Patreon page, and you can see how you can support my channel, which is greatly appreciated, and you'll also get your name in the credits of all of my videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time on Board Game Heaven.